Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. I'm not joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey, today, but don't worry, the show still goes on. We got a pretty packed show for you today. Some brand new topics we're introducing for the show because there has been some news outside of just the basic football, basketball. We've now added some baseball. And we actually had a boxing match, a very, at least I think, impressive boxing match that happened over the weekend on ESPN+. But let's get into our first topic. We are talking baseball because I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, I believe, when the official new MLB rule changes came in, banning the shift, essentially. There's going to be a new pitch clock to hopefully speed up the game. All attempts to try to keep the MLB alive, I would say, because I definitely think the MLB has been struggling, at least in the new viewership department, because I think still people who like baseball have always liked baseball, and basically the MLB is trying to, get new viewers to at least jump onto baseball. So they added a pitch clock to hopefully speed things up, and that's been successful in spring training. The pitch clock has been very successful. The average MLB game last year was about 3 hours and 17 minutes, I believe. Every single spring training game has been 3 hours and 60 minutes or below. There was even one game that was like 2.5 hours. So speeding up the game has been, a question mark for several years now. But on Saturday, in the Atlanta Braves-Boston Red Sox game, it ended in a 6-6 tie because the Atlanta Braves infielder Cal Connolly got called for a batter's box violation, which is essentially you're not set in the batter's box with 8 seconds remaining on the pitch clock. It was a full count, and I believe we have at least the reaction. Connolly didn't know what to do. There was some sort of motion. The umpire motioned to go to first, but then called him out. No one knew what the hell was going on. Bottom of the ninth, full count, 2 outs. Ended the game on a tie. And then the question mark after this was, I think people understood why there would be a pitch clock, but you know what? Then there were question marks after this game saying, well, when should the pitch clock be instituted? Should it be even in the 9th inning? That's the big question here. So I'm going to ask myself, do I like this pitch clock? And is it a good or a bad change for baseball? So the first one I will do is I actually like the pitch clock. Because there was someone on Twitter here, Barstool Baseball, posted about 22 hours ago. They took a little clip from, I believe this is I don't have it for the show, but they basically compared an inside the park home run by Jose Altuve and how much time passed between how many inside the park home runs and a pitch being thrown. It turns out there were about, I believe, 7 inside the park home runs before one singular pitch was on. So it was about 2.5 minutes before a pitch was thrown. Like that's ridiculous. That is the portion that, would make people sit there like, let's go, let's speed up the game here. I think he threw it over to like second base twice maybe or 3 times. That's going to be removed apparently. You can only throw over, I believe, twice. So they're getting rid of that. I watched several baseball games throughout the year. Every time a pitcher would throw it over, the home crowd would always start to boo. And I can understand that. I can fully understand that. Now, you're waiting for 2 minutes for a singular pitch. That's a little bit ridiculous here. So I can understand why. So I like the pitch clock. Speeds up the game. And I do think this would be a positive change for baseball. But of course, I'm sure if my dad was here, he would actually probably disagree with this because I think it's sort of like the anticipation of when a pitch is coming in. Now it's speeding up a little bit. It kind of maybe feels rushed. And some pitchers have a very long release time. And that every time I see a pitcher with an extremely long release time, I just find it absolutely hilarious because they take so long to throw a singular pitch. And the MLB is like, yo, we got to stop this. And the MLB, what? The truth of the matter is, MLB is a dying sport. It's barely above hockey in viewership. And hockey is one of the lowest viewed sports in America right now. It's football, and then a decent gap, basketball, and I believe even a bigger gap is baseball and hockey. So baseball is technically a dying sport. I'm probably one of the minorities of people my age that actually enjoy watching baseball. I believe I only have like 4 friends that like watching baseball. So, we're trying, I guess that's what the MLB is trying to change. Add a younger viewership to hopefully keep the sport alive after the people who have watched it for 40, 50 years, they move on. It's kind of, that attempt to bring it in speed up the game, which I don't mind. I think it's going to be a good change. It seems like the internet actually enjoys the pitch clock, and I can understand why. I remember you're sitting there for 18 innings in the 2018 was it game 4 of the World Series, Dodgers Red Sox, 18 innings. You're sitting there for what? I think it was like 5-6 hours, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. You're sitting there all the time, you know. You speed up a pitch clock, you'll probably take off about 20%, maybe 15% of that game just strictly on waiting for pitches alone, because some people have extremely long pitch times. I believe there's a reliever or a closer on the Astros. He has one of the weirdest windups I've ever seen. I wonder how I haven't seen many Astro games or really any Astro spring training games, so I'm very curious to see how his motion is sped up, because now it's sort of like, you know, I believe 2 minutes and 15 seconds I saw on the clock in the little footage there. 2 minutes and 15 seconds to throw one pitch. Like, that's a little bit ridiculous. Just a little bit. And I believe you can only have a certain amount of mound visits. I think they implemented that last year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's all attempts to speed up the game, which I think is very, very smart for baseball. Because, like I said, you're trying to get more people to get into baseball, and you're trying to have the people who are on the fence be like, okay. And the people who don't like to wait, 3 hours for a baseball game, you're trying to say, hey, we're speeding up the game. But you could also say that the people who go watch the game, there's some of them spend pretty good money to get, a nice 3-hour game. And if it's over in 2 hours, it may feel a little bit rushed. So maybe, but I do think this change is good. And the way I'm seeing it on the internet, I think that the majority of people would also agree with the change. So we'll see. Will they change it for the 9th inning where they can't have that violation? Maybe. I think that's actually a really good conversation to have. Where do you actually want to take it maybe out of the game in crucial situations like this? Like where it's a 6-6 tie, full count, 2 outs, bases loaded, and you don't get set in the batter's box with 8 seconds remaining in the pitch clock, and you get called for a strike 3. I couldn't pronounce the pitcher for the Red Sox's name, but he threw 2 strikes and was able to get a strikeout. Like, that's crazy. And so I think maybe you want to try to, maybe create some little exceptions to the rule. But I'm sure this is all about a process. The MLB's trying something new. I respect that immensely. Trying to figure things out to speed up the game, make it more entertaining for people. So maybe make an exception going into the 9th inning. You can't have something like that. Maybe turn the pitch clock off, because I think actually you have a sped up game for 8 innings. Then you go into the 9th inning, you maybe have a little bit of a more anticipation, more anxiety when that pitch comes in. That could be an option here. I don't think that would slow down the game so much in the 9th inning. Keep the shift ban and keep the mound visits to one number or something like that. But entering the 9th inning, we may see chances where there will be another batter's box violation in a key moment of a game. That very well could happen, because some people take a long time to get set in the batter's box. So I like the change, but I do think there could be a little bit of an exception when it comes to the 9th inning. But we'll see what MLB does. Like I said, I respect the decision. I respect the push to try to change how the MLB works, because you're sitting there for 3.5, 4 hours. It gets a little bit tedious there, and especially if your team's getting crushed. I went through a couple baseball games last year. I went to a couple Red Sox games, Red Sox Yankees, and I think Red Sox Blue Jays. They got smoked. It was in like that stretch where they lost like by 12, 11 runs per game. I was at the Chris Sale injury game where he broke his finger off a comebacker, and I'm sitting there. The Red Sox are getting smoked in both those games. I'm like, yo, please let this game end. And it would sort of be that thing where it's like, oh, if the game's over in 2 hours, it's not as crushing. But like I said, respect the MLB for trying to make a change to improve the game. All right, let's get into our next topic. We're talking about basketball, because I have no football on this list right now, because there's not much football news. I guess you could say Carson Wentz got released today. That could be some news, but Carson Wentz, there were rumors out there very early on that this was probably his last year. But let's get into basketball, because the Lakers just had a phenomenal comeback, and LeBron also got injured in this game. So let's start with the positives here. The Lakers are on a 3-game winning streak. Anthony Davis, right now he's healthy, looks really, really good. And here's another thing. The Lakers, when it comes to at least if they won or lost their own trade deadline, they won this trade deadline. The acquisition of D'Angelo Russell, you also have Vanderbilt, and I believe you also, was it Malik Beasley, I believe his name is, or Vic Beasley? Those players are very, very good, especially Vanderbilt. He gives you size, he gives you defense, and last night he had a great game. Shot 6 of 8, 1 of 1 from 3, 15 points. He was a plus 14 on the plus minus. Oh, and he also gave you 17 rebounds. Anthony Davis, 12 of 20, 30 points, 3 blocks, 15 rebounds. He was a plus 16. And LeBron, 10 of 23, 1 of 6 from 3. He's not a great three-point shooter, so I won't absolutely grill him on that. 26 points. He was literally a 0 in the plus minus, but he did get hurt, and he said that he heard a pop, supposedly, although the Lakers could not confirm that. It looked like he said, I believe you could hear it on the broadcast, that he said, I think I heard a pop. So I saw a sports doctor on Twitter, Twitter sports doctors, I don't know how well you could trust it. I believe he said plantar fasciitis or whatever the hell it's called. I'm not a big medical guy, so I can't pronounce these medical terms, but I believe that's something like that. Something like whatever it is. I looked up the injury. It said 9 to 12 week recovery period. So we'll see what the actual diagnosis is. Apparently, LeBron and the Lakers have said I believe it's on his right foot. If they'll assess it in due time, but that's the positive of the Lakers situation. They won their trade deadline. They got off Russell Westbrook. Anthony Davis right now is healthy, and he's playing very, very well. LeBron, that's a negative right now. He got hurt again. Otherwise, he stayed in this game. He got hurt, I believe, late in the third quarter, and he still stayed in this game. They did win. They were down 27, and were able to come back against Luka and Kyrie Irving. Here's the negative part of it. They still need to play defense to maintain a large push for the rest of the season. LeBron said, I believe he said, like, the last 23 games of the season are like the most important of his career. I think he knows this is really his best shot to try to, win another title. Because I think, realistically, LeBron probably is not going to win another title. Would it be cool to see him win another title at age 40 years old, 39 years old? Of course it would. Of course it would. But the reality is, are the Lakers really a championship team? Not really. Not really. But do they look good right now? Yeah, they look really good. They're on a 3-game winning streak. You have pieces here that you picked up. Hachimura is a pretty good pickup. He'll give you, 14 minutes a game, and generally, this game he wasn't that good in this game, but generally he can give you probably, 8 to 14 points, I would say. But overall, the Lakers are not built very well. They don't play a lot of defense. If you look at it, they are one of the worst defensive rating teams in the NBA right now. That's not good. The reason why the Lakers actually have some hope is because LeBron and Anthony Davis are one of the best duos in the NBA right now. The only problem is we don't get to see it that often because one of them is hurt, or both of them are hurt, like earlier this season. However, when they're healthy, they are a very, very good duo. Anthony Davis and Vanderbilt, along with a little bit of help from LeBron, they were the reason why they won that game last night. And it really wasn't the fact that, Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic played poorly. Kyrie Irving didn't shoot well from 3, shot 2 of 10 from 3, 21 points. Luka scored 26 points, 10 of 22 from the floor, 4 of 8 from 3. I have full faith in this Lakers team to make the playoffs, or at least the play-in tournament. Could they make a push in the West? The West is not as strong as people may think. You have Denver, who is they're a great team right now. Jokic is probably going to win his 3rd straight MVP. I would give it to Embiid, personally. I think Embiid should have won last year, personally. But you have Memphis. Memphis, I don't really trust. I just don't. I feel like they're all talk. They're all bark and no bite. Sacramento, they are a strange team. They're strangely good. De'Aaron Fox was on a tear. They just put up the second most points in NBA history against the Clippers. Malik Monk dropping 40. I believe De'Aaron Fox also dropped 40. Domantas Sabonis, he's been very, very consistent and very consistently good, if not great, the past few seasons. But then you get Phoenix, who they just picked up Kevin Durant. And can they win consistently? And in the playoffs, are they going to be able to win? And Chris Paul, CP3, can he, relieve the curse that's on him of never winning an NBA Finals? This is probably his best year. Then you have someone like the Clippers. Can they stay healthy? That's the big question. Can they stay healthy? Because Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and now Russell Westbrook, who isn't really Russell Westbrook anymore, still has turnover problems. First game, they played very well together. Then you have Dallas, who, can Kyrie and Luka work? I'll talk about that later on in this topic, but can they work? Then you have the Warriors, who without Steph don't play very well, and especially on the road they are god awful. They got Utah at 8. Utah's actually been pretty surprising. You lose Donovan Mitchell, you lose Rudy Gobert, you trade away a bunch of your assets, and yet you're still in the play-in tournament right now. Like, that's incredible. Then you got the 9 and 10 seed, Minnesota and New Orleans. Zion's hurt again. Cat is out. You lost D'Angelo Russell. The Lakers here at 12. They're one game behind the New Orleans Pelicans for the 10 seed. Can they do it? They should be able to with this team. Even with LeBron gone, I still think they could do it. Will one or two players have to step up for the Lakers? Of course. Of course. But Anthony Davis, we saw early in the season, he was looking insane. He looked tremendous early in the year. And when he came back from the injury, he looked really good. And LeBron, we've seen what LeBron has done at, age 38, 37, 38, averaging 30-plus points. Except now LeBron's getting older and, age is actually starting to hit him when it comes to his body. Not his play. We've seen his play. Like I said, 30 points a game. But when it comes to the health of his body, that's where we're seeing where he gets his age. That's where, upper 30s, low 40s, that's where LeBron's getting hit right now. Anthony Davis is weird. He just gets hurt at the craziest times. I mean, he's built, I would say he's built very, very good. It's just he gets hurt a bunch of times. The Lakers' depth is kind of a problem too. But they are on a 3-game winning streak. They did go out and beat the Warriors. They did just beat Luka and Kyrie and the Mavericks. And I think the Mavericks, we can't say it's all Luka anymore because he does have Kyrie now. So it's not just the Luka show. Is Luka still the main piece of the Mavericks? Of course. I don't think anyone would deny that. However, I want to talk about the Mavericks. Basically, what I was going to say is, Lakers, they're going to make a push. I don't know if they're going to compete for the West, but they should be in the play-in tournament. And with the way the team's looking right now, if LeBron's injury isn't, very, very serious, they should at least make the play-in. But if it's not serious, they could probably secure a playoff spot. But I do want to talk about the Mavericks here, because I find it very, very interesting about this Luka and Kyrie situation. Jason Kidd, in his post-game conference, said that we need to basically mature up, grow up. And that's kind of funny, because you have Kyrie on your team. Kyrie hasn't really grown up when it comes to the NBA. He's like that rebellious kid. You tell him to do something, and just out of the spite of not doing what you told him, he would do it. He would do his own thing to rebel against you. And so this relationship between Kyrie and Luka and the Mavericks, we've seen Kyrie 3 straight times promise that he would stay with the team. And now he's not, setting it in stone that he's going to stay with the Mavericks. Kyrie and Luka, they're really good offensively. They don't play defense. They are very, very poor defenders. And so they're going to need to outscore and outplay offensively their very, very bad defense. Can they do it? Well, since Kyrie came to the Mavericks are 3-3. Out of those 6 games, 4 of them, Luka and Kyrie have played together. They are 1-3 when playing together. I'm not buying into this Mavericks team. And I'm not buying into any sort of success when it comes to the Mavericks. I'm not. Is Luka a phenomenal player? He's probably top 3. I would put him way up there. Probably Giannis, it would be my number 1, most dominant player in the NBA. Luka, probably number 2. Kyrie, he's got work to do. His handles are unmatched. His offense is pretty good. His defense is a huge problem. And the Mavericks, before Kyrie, were a horrible team. It was Luka and who? It was Spencer Dinwiddie, and then it was Finney Smith. Those 2 players aren't great players. And even before them, it was Luka, and then Jalen Brunson, and then Finney Smith, and I just said his name. Finney Smith, and I'm forgetting his name. But basically, there was nobody. Jalen Brunson went to the Knicks. He went to the Knicks. Mavericks didn't want to hold on to him. It's Luka and Kyrie now. And I think, with the way they each play, each of them need the ball. They need the ball in their hands to be successful. And you can't have, 2 people holding one ball together. That's just the way it is. And I don't think there's going to be any sort of success here. And then after this season, Kyrie's going to want a pretty big deal. I believe the report is he wants, I think it was a max extension if I'm not mistaken. Kyrie wants to get a bunch of money on a long-term deal. Will the Mavericks be willing to give that up for Luka to, make a push in his career to be successful? To hopefully go out and compete for a title? That's a great question. Will they do it? I think they will. But will it be successful? I'm saying no. I'm flat out saying no. Because I just don't think it'll work. I don't think the chemistry is there. But what's the other option, though? You can't go out and get, like a Dame Lillard to be your number 1 or your number 2. I guess on the Mavericks, he would be the 2. You can't do that. Because he's not available. All these superstars and great players, they're not really available. Although we just saw Kevin Durant get traded from the Nets to the Suns, but Brooklyn was falling apart. He got rid of James Harden. Then Kevin Durant requests for a trade. Then he decides to come back. Then Kyrie demands a trade. He leaves. Then KD leaves. Then you bring in Ben Simmons in between all that. And Ben Simmons is terrible. So Brooklyn was a complete mess. They're falling apart here. So I'm not taking much out of that. But I don't think the Mavericks with Kyrie and Luka will work. When it comes down to it, why did the Warriors beat the Celtics, who the Celtics were the best defensive team in the NBA? Why did the Warriors become so successful in the playoffs last year? And why did the Celtics fall apart against the Warriors? Amazing team chemistry. And also, the Warriors played significantly better defense than the Celtics did. The Celtics were the number 1 defensive team last year. And the Warriors came into that series and dominated them. We're going to need to see a lot of defense from a team that doesn't play great defense. And especially your 2 best players who are mainly offensive because the defense is not there. I can't see the Mavericks being successful in these playoffs. But we would have to see. Still to come, I give my opinion on the Jake Paul-Tommy Fury boxing match yesterday in Saudi Arabia. And is load management in the NBA really a problem? NBA Commissioner Adam Silver does not believe so, but I give my take right after this.
Introducing video podcasts on Spotify.
Transform your storytelling into a show everyone can watch
Or listen to.
Easily upload your video through Anchor, Spotify's free podcast creation tool.
So whether you're showing off a new recipe,
Interviewing an exclusive guest,
or uncovering the next mystery,
you can now reach a whole new audience with Spotify.
podcasting just became more than audio.
Create with Anchor, watch on Spotify.
You have a lot to say. Maybe you've thought, I should start a podcast. Meet Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast ever. It's a powerful mobile app and web tool that lets you record a podcast anywhere and distribute it everywhere. It's great whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. And it's 100% free. You can record your show straight into Anchor on your phone, iPad, or the web, using any mic you want. Record alone or with friends or co-hosts anywhere in the world. You can add background music and transitions, and your listeners can send you voice messages that you can incorporate right into your next episode. If you want to produce your show using another app, you can upload your own audio directly from web or mobile, and still take advantage of Anchor's totally free podcast hosting. Once your podcast is ready to publish, Anchor can automatically distribute it to every major podcast platform. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, so your listeners can hear your show wherever they want. And on the web, you can see detailed analytics about how people are listening. Plus, you'll get a great-looking profile page where anyone can listen to your podcast or subscribe to it. And if you want to ask your audience to support your work, Anchor makes it easy to collect monthly payments from the people who love your podcast and want to see it grow. You really don't need a recording studio, expensive equipment, or a bunch of technical knowledge to deal with a podcast feed. Just get started and join the diverse community of podcasters already on Anchor. We can't wait to hear your podcast.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. I'm not joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey, for today, but he will be back on Friday. But let's get into our next topic because, a little bit of a surprise when, at least for me, because I didn't think I'd actually be talking about this, but we are talking about last night's boxing match. Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury, I believe, is the half-brother of Tyson Fury, who is an absolute monster. They fought off on an ESPN pay-per-view. The fight was, properly nicknamed The Truth. It was the problem child. 4-0, or 6-0, sorry. Going up against Tommy Fury, who I believe was 8-0 at the time. Both of them had 4 knockouts. There was a lot of, smack talk going between them throughout, because I believe this fight was supposed to be, a year ago, 2 years ago, and Tommy Fury was doing injury. Jake Paul called him out for sort of dodging the fight and everything like that. But, there actually wasn't that much hype, I believe. I think I saw the fight maybe 2 or 3 days before it was actually scheduled to be, fought. So we're talking, the 23rd, the 24th of February. And so I was actually kind of excited for this because this was supposed to be Jake Paul going up against a actual, not aged boxer or not a basketball player or a guy who's absolutely useless in the boxing ring like Ben Askren. But it was supposed to be Jake Paul up against, a formidable opponent. And Jake Paul goes in to this match, like I said, smack talking, making a lot of noise. And I watched that fight pretty closely. And the decision came down to Tommy Fury winning. One judge actually had Jake Paul winning at a 74-75 in favor of Jake Paul, and then the other 2 judges had 76-73 in favor of Tommy Fury. And he got on the mic after the game saying he finally made a name for himself. I believe Tommy Fury is, 23 years old? So it's good to see, I took a look at that fight. Tommy Fury looked like a significantly better boxer than Jake Paul. Jake Paul totally landed 49 punches. The crazy thing about it is Tommy Fury landed 49 power punches. So he landed the same amount of power punches as Jake Paul did total punches. Fury almost doubled Jake Paul's total punches. Fury had 88 total punches landed. He also threw about double the amount of punches that Jake Paul did. I'm not taking anything away from Jake Paul. He is an incredibly, incredibly efficient promoter of his fights. They are entertaining because he usually picks, really good opponents to box. Generally. I'm not the Nate Robinson thing was a joke. Like that was the stupidest fight I may have ever seen in my life. And he turned him into like a rag doll, like a punching bag after that. One punch. Looking back at that Nate Robinson fight, it's a complete joke. But this was supposed to be, Jake Paul's big thing. If he won this, then there would be no doubters about, how great of a boxer he truly is. But I was really, really impressed with Jake Paul. Although, he left a lot to be desired. Like I said, he didn't land many punches. He got hit with a lot of jabs. A lot of jabs. But I gotta give it to him. He stands in there and takes those punches. He got bashed in the face a few times. Tommy Fury was, I think there were like 5 or 6, 3 or 4 punch combos that Jake Paul just absorbed. He did look a little dazed, but he didn't get knocked down. Jake Paul did knock down Tommy Fury. And I'm going to say this up front because I am not the biggest boxing fan, or I don't really follow boxing. I follow probably like the big events that are on boxing, or I follow like the Jake Paul or the KSI fights or something like that. But what I could see from boxing when it comes to Jake Paul is Tommy Fury works a lot, or at least in this fight, he did a lot of the little things, the jabs, the little gut punches. Jake Paul's going for that power punch to knock him out. He's going for the wow punch. He's not doing the little things that could, amount to a victory. He's going for the knockout. That's what I could tell. Maybe I'm completely wrong. And I will accept that because I am not, the biggest follower of boxing. But what I could tell from seeing these Jake Paul fights, he's going for the big one. He's not going for the little jab to try to, wear the opponent down to eventually get to the big blow. I saw Jake Paul whiff on 3 or 4 huge punches. Like, if those connected, Tommy Fury may be lying on the mat and counting. Knockout, Jake Paul beats Tommy Fury. Stays undefeated. Tommy Fury, he looked stronger. He was, immediately from the first round, his quickness was incredible. He was throwing punches, I'm not going to say, I think Nate Diaz throws a hell of a quick punch. Not to that level. But he's throwing very, very quick punches. Jake Paul he's a bit of a slugger. Not as quick, but he's an influencer. He's an influencer turned, pseudo boxer. Do I think Jake Paul is a boxer? No. I don't think he's I don't think he's, a pro boxer. But do I think he's a pretty good fighter? Yeah, I do think he's a pretty good fighter. Because he was 6-0. And although some of those opponents were, old or a basketball player, his technique wasn't terrible and he could throw a pretty mean punch. But in this fight showed you the difference between someone who trains to be a pro boxer and has the speed and footwork and mechanics of a pro boxer, and then Jake Paul, who does a better job promoting than he does doing the little things like training to be a pro boxer. But Jake Paul doesn't need to do that. Like he said, he won at life. He's making millions of dollars to promote this, to promote these fights. And then I believe he was 6-0 with 4 knockouts. He got it done. He got it done. I don't think Jake Paul takes a huge hit here. His ego is beyond the clouds, so he won't really take this loss won't bother him. This loss won't bother him. But it looked like the internet won last night. Or I guess yesterday afternoon. Because we were all hoping, people called the Jake Paul fights rigged and everything like that. Jake Paul paid his opponents to, take hits, drop, fall down, take the L. But last night was supposed to be Jake Paul's shining moment to make the next step in his boxing journey. And apparently, it looked like he had the right to, ask for a rematch, and he took that opportunity. But I don't think he would win that rematch. I just think Tommy Fury is a boxer. He is a boxer. Jake Paul is an influencer boxer. Very, very entertaining to watch. But when it gets to the level of someone who is doing this professionally, not who's in their early to mid 40s, or very late 30s, when you're 26 years old, that's where the gap happens. That's where someone who is about your age, and I think they're like about the same weight and, and height, but Tommy Fury just looks so much bigger in the ring than Jake Paul did. Like, I was looking at that fight, I'm like, Tommy Fury is quick. He's got a lot of combos. Jake Paul's got one hard right hook. That's really what Jake Paul's got. His jabs are okay, not great. It looks like he gets gassed by round 4 or 5 in each of his fights. But then, you know what? In that 8th round, he did drop Tommy Fury. But then right after he dropped him, Tommy Fury hit him with like a 3 or 4 punch combo. And I'm like, that's how you come back from a fight. And also Logan Paul, they gave like the PA mic to Logan Paul, and he called like Tommy Fury and I think his family the B word and everything like that. And that might have riled him up. You don't really do that in a fight. You're trying to help out your brother, not give the other boxer motivation to beat the crap out of your brother. So I found that I was very, very impressed. Will I watch more Jake Paul fights? Absolutely. Because it's interesting. He calls himself the problem child. He's got a lot of hype around him. He gets butts in seats. He gets pay-per-views, which is incredibly impressive. But we do have to remember, this is a YouTuber who is trying to be a boxer. And he's getting his hype and his success from guys who are nearing the age of getting Social Security. So he was up against a 23-year-old Tommy Fury, a legit guy trying to become a pro boxer, and he looked outmatched. I don't know what that first judge was scoring. 74-75 in favor of Jake Paul? I didn't see it. There were a couple weird calls in there. I think there were like 2 1-point deductions in 2 rounds. Like that was weird. I think one was for like a headlock and the other one was for a hit in the back of the head. I didn't really see. I saw the headlock. The official told Tommy Fury not to put him in a headlock very early I think it was like round 2 or 3 where he said don't do that. And I think he did it again, and that's why the point was taken off. But I was impressed. I was genuinely impressed with the fight. Fury made a name for himself. But like I said, 49 power punches landed by Tommy Fury. 49 total punches landed by Jake Paul. Jake Paul has a very, very vicious right hook. But outside of that, nothing is really that great. Tommy Fury has the speed, the footwork, I think the strength. Jake Paul looked dazed. Jake Paul took a couple of very mean hits in that fight. But all in all, I was impressed. I'm going to be very interested to see what Jake Paul does in his... I believe he's going to continue. He should continue. He's 6-1 with 4 knockouts. Tommy Fury's now 9-0. This was a split decision. So I'll be very, very intrigued to see what Jake Paul does for his next fight. Because you got KSI clowning him on Twitter. I hope they fight. My money's on KSI. And there might be a rematch. Tommy Fury, Jake Paul too. I'll definitely watch that. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where Jake Paul goes from here. But let's get to our next topic, our last topic. Flying by in this episode of the Harvey Hour. So let's get to our next topic, our last topic. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver does not buy into the idea of load management being a problem in the NBA. And I find this very, very fascinating because a lot of players say that they don't like load management either. And the public and the media they had the general consensus that players asked, at least from what I could see, at least from what I've heard online, that no one really knew why players were sitting back to back. Was it the coaches? Was it the training staff? Was it the players? But then you got Steph Curry coming out earlier this year saying, like, I want to play, but it's the trainers and it's the coaches who are like, yeah, no, you can't play. And then I believe you had Anthony Edwards at the All-Star game. I'm pretty sure he talked about it, where he said that, it's a problem because, people, NBA tickets are not that cheap depending on, what type of market you're in. I'm in New York. Knicks tickets are not that, cheap. Nets tickets, I guarantee you they probably went down in price now with, the three of their, great players gone. But, they're not cheap. He said that, like, they only maybe have enough money to go to one game throughout the year. And if, the main reason people are going, like for the Lakers, is to see LeBron James and LeBron's sitting out on a load management day, it's kind of like you're wasting your money because you're there to see LeBron play basketball. Or if you're a Warriors fan, you're there to see, Steph or Clay play. Clay, when he was nursing his injury, I could understand that. But then also Clay on back-to-backs, he would generally take the second day off. Steph, when he played, he's hurt right now, would do sort of the same thing. He generally wouldn't play back-to-back. And that's a problem, I think. I do think load management is a problem. Because you're paying these guys $30, $40, $50 million, and they miss like 20 games due to rest. If you played 60 games in the NBA and you're making $50 million a year, that's nice. Just a few years ago, you would need to play a lot of games. You would play a lot of games and make $50 million. And it was sort of like, okay, you earned your money. Now you're getting paid to sort of sit on the bench due to load management. I do think it's unfair. For the simple reason, like, if I go to a game, I want to see, like a Jalen Brunson or a Julius Randle play if I'm going to a Knicks game. If I'm in San Francisco, I want to see Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green all be on the floor at the same time playing basketball. I don't want to see them, missing games due to load management. If you're in Los Angeles, everyone wants to see LeBron. He's probably the greatest player in NBA history. Of course you want to see him. And especially, like, these younger players can take those, long games, the full season. They could take that. Unless you're Zion and have leg injuries, then you can't take even, 30 games. But generally, the younger players can, go through the rigor of a full NBA season. The older players, like a LeBron or anything like that, I can understand that. I can understand the veterans taking, some rest. But we're talking about, 25-year-olds to like 29-year-olds taking some load management days. And it's apparently not up to them. They're told, yeah, you're not playing today. You're on a load management day. And there's really nothing they could do to play on that back-to-back. So I do think it's unfair. Here's the crazy thing. The average NBA salary is a little bit under $10 million. And you're sitting on the bench for 20, 30 games a year. Now, there were some changes that could be made, some that were proposed, like a 72-game season. I know Steve Kerr is a big proponent of lowering the amount of games played. But to the guys that are making not that much money, you're going to want, a full season because then you're going to make more money here. So it's either you raise the amount of money you pay for a 72-game season to try to, even it out like it were an 82-game season, at least payment-wise, or you get rid of the load management thing for young players who could take it. If you're not hurt, why not? Why aren't you playing? Well, you're resting at 29 years old, 28 years old when you're like maybe in your prime or on just the start of the tail end of your prime. What are you doing taking a rest day? I don't understand it personally. Maybe someone in the comments out there could help me understand why the hell people in their early 20s are taking rest days. I'm not sure I understand why. And Adam Silver says he doesn't buy into load management being a problem. You know why? Because you got so many stars in the NBA if 4 of them don't play, but then you have the other, 26 stars play, those are going to be swept under the radar a little bit. But when you got a bunch of stars out at one time, that's where you're going to hear people complain. You have that, they do a lot for player safety too, player health. They have like that week of the All-Star break. They don't play defense anymore in the All-Star game. I just think, you need those reps. Younger players need those reps to get better. And I think it was DeMar DeRozan that said that, I believe it was 78 games to be considered for other NBA awards or just the MVP award. I don't hate that. I think saying you can only miss 4 games is a little bit extreme. I would say probably play 72 games. 72 games, 70 games to be eligible for the MVP or just, all NBA awards, like the most improved player and stuff like that. I think that could be a good idea. I think that'd be pretty controversial. I think people would also, probably think, it's a little unfair. You got to play all these games. What if you get hurt and everything like that? So I can understand that. But, I think load management is a problem. But, who knows? I don't think the NBA is going to change anything about load management because, they're multi-billion-dollar companies, multi-billion-dollar businesses. They're going to continue sitting their guys until there's like a severe public outcry of, why am I paying hundreds of dollars to go to a game to see my guy sip a smoothie on the bench at the end of the bench there and just watch the game and get up every once in a while and clap when they're not really hurt? I think that's really only when you see a severe improvement or push to get rid of load management or to decrease it enough so, people who, pay tickets, they have a much, much higher chance maybe in a back-to-back to see their, favorite player or to see, the main stars of your team play. But that does wrap it up. This is a very, very short episode of the Harvey Hour. I think it was, 40 minutes? But we are going to wrap it up here. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this episode. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour. That's where you can see it. Or really anywhere you get your podcast. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast. Look up The Harvey Hour. It'll be there for you guys to listen to. Also, clips will be uploaded throughout the week. I'm sure you'll see, if you guys watch the live stream, you'll see it throughout the week. You will see the clips that you've seen maybe on the show if you watch the live stream throughout the week. But also, if you want to, call into the show. Send messages into the show. We did a topic before where someone sent a message into the show. Go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour, just like the podcast. At the end of it, do /message. That's where you make an account for anchor.fm. Then you can send in a message, send in a voice message, and I will listen to it on the show, and I will answer it live here on The Harvey Hour. But for this episode of The Harvey Hour, my name's Nathan Harvey. I will see you on Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. At The Harvey Hour on TikTok. I guess I don't even have my Twitter. I believe it's at Nathan T. Harvey 1 on Twitter. I don't have it down below me, but podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, like I said, youtube.com/The Harvey Hour. I will see you guys Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern for another episode of The Harvey Hour.
Introducing video podcasts on Spotify.
Transform your storytelling into a show everyone can watch
Or listen to.
Easily upload your video through Anchor, Spotify's free podcast creation tool.
So whether you're showing off a new recipe,
Interviewing an exclusive guest,
or uncovering the next mystery,
you can now reach a whole new audience with Spotify.
podcasting just became more than audio.
Create with Anchor, watch on Spotify.